The German Bundestag has also approved the delivery of heavy weapons to Ukraine and approved the joint application by the so-called traffic light coalition and the union with a large majority. In the debate, however, representatives of the government and opposition exchanged blows, and some of which were sharp. The CDU-CSU faction leader Friedrich Merz again accused Chancellor Olaf Scholz of the Social Democrats of hesitation and delaying tactics. The Social Democrat chairman Lars Klingbeil then attested to his party tactical profiling. The opposition was also outraged that the chancellor, who had traveled to Japan, was absent. The joint motion by the SPD, Greens, FDP and CDU-CSU was accepted with 586 yes votes, 100 no votes and 7 abstentions. In the roll call vote, the SPD voted unanimously in favor of the motion, the CDU-CSU had 1 dissenting vote, the Greens had 2 abstentions and the FDP 1 abstention. 4 AfD MPs and 1 non-affiliated voted yes. In the application, the federal government is asked, among other things, to continue and, where possible, accelerate the delivery of equipment and also to expand the delivery of heavy weapons and complex systems, for example, as part of the so-called ring exchange. They could also check whether further weapons can be handed over and actively approach countries to offer them what everyone calls a ring exchange. Merz accused Scholz of leaving the question of whether Ukraine should receive weapons open for weeks. That's not prudence, as you've been trying to explain in the traffic light groups in the past few days. That's hesitation, that's procrastination, and that's anxiety, he complained. The problem for the Chancellor was, and is not the opposition's problem. The problem for the Chancellor was and still is the criticism from his own ranks. This went as far as the question of whether Scholz was still up to his job. Merz called his warning in a Spiegel interview that the delivery of German weapons would possibly trigger a third world war just as irresponsible as it is wrong and misleading from our own historical experience. Yeah, the Chancellor said something like that. And SPD leader Klingbeil responded to this kind of general reckoning. Today you could have made a state political speech, but it turned out to be a party political speech. Well, it's still the opposition. Klingbeil said he was grateful that the traffic light groups and the CDU-CSU had initiated the joint application. But there is no place here for partisan political profiling. The motion sends a clear signal to Kremlin boss Vladimir Putin and to the people of Ukraine that we are on the right side of history as the German Bundestag, he said. Union Parliamentary Group leader Johann Wadefuhl later took up the keyword state political speech and criticized the Chancellor's trip to Japan. The Federal Chancellor should have given the state political speech here today. He would have been required here. We would have wanted to see him here. And AfD faction leader Tino Kruppalla had previously described it as inexcusable that Scholz was not present. The Bundestag argues about war and peace, and Mr. Scholz travels to Japan for the cherry blossoms, he said. And FDP, that's Liberal faction leader Christian Dürr, defended the Chancellor. It is now a question of strengthening relations with liberal democracies worldwide. Therefore, it is right that the Federal Chancellor has recently traveled to Japan to do exactly that. Left faction leader Dietmar Bartsch warned of the risk of nuclear war and as a result of arms deliveries to Ukraine. Partly because of the fear of a nuclear war, the Chancellor ruled out the delivery of heavy weapons, and rightly so, said Bartsch. If Bartsch agrees with you, you're in trouble. This is what people expected from the government, he said, but every day there is a turnaround by Scholz and the traffic light. There's a fatal race, higher, faster, further, he said. And the FDP defense politician Marie-Agnes Strack-Zimmermann denounced mistakes in the past. Naively, ignorantly, with German calm, they watched as Russia instigated a war in eastern Ukraine 8 years ago, said the chair of the Defense Committee. The woman is great, by the way. Since then, 14,000 people have died. It's about freedom and democracy, about self-determination, about human rights that are trampled on. So please call and shout to Ukraine for our help. Green Party leader Britta Hasselmann emphasized, Ukraine can rely on our support. She made it clear that the government does not make decisions lightly. We weigh up, we doubt, yes, and we quarrel, but and we decide. Yeah, but always too late, as I have to say. And there was a lot of pressure on this government by the union faction this time, because they already handed over their own motion, or what you call, might in the UK called bill, for parliament, and they forced the hand of the government, because this government always delayed and delayed and delayed, and are telling a lot of stuff that they are giving as much as the other allies and so on, and nobody was earlier than Germany to deliver and decide on heavy weapons. And no, even my very special friend Boris Johnson, Great Britain, Canada, the USA, they all decided earlier and much more decisively. The German government is always delaying, is doing so many U-turns that I get dizzy in my head watching this. And they destroyed so much of our international credibility since they are in office. That is unbelievable. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.